Gamer's Garage.
Welcome to the 7th round of the Losers Bracket. We have some unfortunate news. Paul Brewer had to be on a flight tonight, and he will not be able to attend the podcast. But we have some interesting, eSports news as well as just some random topics for you. And we're going to go ahead and start it off with ESL Masters results.
The ESL Masters was this past weekend. We had games ranging from World of Warcraft to Counter-Strike 1.6 to Quake Live, and there were some pretty good results. Shane Rafa Hendrickson, he won for Quake Live, won $10,000, pretty incredible. Not to mention EG winning for WoW, and a Ukrainian team by the name of Navi ended up winning Counter-Strike 1.6 in a stunning upset.
Yeah, it seemed to me that everybody else was calling it upset, but for all the interviews, Navi seemed really confident. They practiced a lot, they seemed to come really prepared, and it looked like it pretty much went according to their plan.
From watching the match this past weekend, they really seemed to have a handle on the game. They looked like they practiced, and they really took it to Fnatic.
Yeah, what I also thought was really interesting in watching the World of Warcraft was to see what in a way was also an upset, because Team EG came in with an RNS build, running Rogue, Shaman, Warlock, and they faced off against Dignitas, who was running an RMP build, which is Rogue, Priest, and Mage. And a lot of people felt that that was the stronger team and also a better combination. But obviously, Team EG demonstrated the exact way to play an RNS build for a World of Warcraft team. And not that Dignitas, was probably too upset taking $10,000 home for second place, but the big $25,000 clearly went to Team EG. The World Cyber Games, obviously, this week also released its first 8 titles. I think they said 7, but we counted 8, so there are at least 8 titles listed there. So let's go through them real quick. Pardon my voice, by the way, because I'm sick. But the first one they announced was Warcraft 3, The Frozen Throne, and obviously that's probably not good news for America. And for those of you that don't know, in 2009, I think there was only one American to actually make it out of group play. I think that was Long Walk, but he got eliminated the first round by Lin from SK Asia, who was playing from South Korea. I know the Chinese took first, second, the South Koreans took third, and I think EG has a Russian player, Happy, who took fourth. But, I don't think that's going to be real popular in LA, just simply because we just don't have the depth of talent in Warcraft 3 the same level that the Chinese do.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised to see that Warcraft 3 is on the list this year, but StarCraft isn't. I definitely would say that StarCraft is the more popular of the two titles, but either way, it is a very competitive strategy game, and I think we should see some fun results.
Even though they didn't announce StarCraft, it really would be interesting if we discover that somehow StarCraft 2 is actually going to make the tournament this year. I mean, the beta's out, so who knows? I really don't.
The only challenge I see them overcoming, if that is like a surprise entry at the last second into the World Cyber Games, is how people would qualify. Obviously, not everybody has access to the beta, so it would kind of limit who could compete just to who was lucky enough to have access. And that's the only challenge I can really see us facing, but it would be a really neat surprise to see it on the circuit this year.
StarCraft isn't a great title for us either, to be honest. I mean, if you look at last year, again, that was dominated by the South Koreans, who took home all 3 medals, and I think the next player to come in was a German player, Coulson. He 2-0'd Hydra from the United States. So again, another title where woefully the United States lags behind, other countries. And since we have Bandit and Mrs. Violence here both, I thought we'd take a chance to talk to them a little bit about why they might think, we might be lacking in America when it comes to some of these titles compared to the rest of the world.
Well, guys, some of the reasons why maybe the United States is lagging behind is people maybe being farther apart. Like,
in the locations. I know like over in Asia and stuff, they definitely have a lot closer, relationships with each other, like in distance. Like here, we have a lot larger of mass, and it's harder for people really to get together in game. I'm not sure if that necessarily correlates with, online gaming necessarily, but that might have something to do with it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've always thought about the distance argument inside gaming because we don't tend to have a lot of tournaments.
Well, I personally think it's because gaming isn't as big as a sport as it is in the other countries, like it is in Germany and Korea. I think we're trying and we're getting there, but we still don't have the support financially and mentally and physically that all the other countries do have, and it's really saddening to see it. But I think we'll get there in a few years. We're still taking baby steps to everything, and we'll get there one day, and I'd really like to see it happen, though.
What do you guys think of the fact, too, of schedules? Like, in the United States, people usually work 9-to-5 jobs. Do you know if there's a difference over in, like, other countries? And I know in Europe there's a difference in, they take different, like, breaks during the day and stuff. You think that has any effect on how people play the games and how good they are at games?
That's an interesting point, but I don't think so at the end of the day. I think that there's two probably major differences that I can think that contribute to what allowed their esports to grow, and I really mean this. The two advantages that Europe and Asia have, specifically the South Koreans and Western Europe, their healthcare is free, so nobody that's young has to worry about paying for their own healthcare, which is really a great incentive. And secondly, they're not as materialistic as we are. They're not going into college spending all that money trying to get an education. A lot of that's paid for them. So when you take a typical American teenager who leaves high school, right, who's 18, 19 years old, they're entering college at a point in their life where they're going to either A, be a drain on the family who's paying for the college education, B, having to work through college, or C, having to take out loans. Knowing this, I think that really has a lot to do with it, because as soon as somebody starts college, they tend to have this naive idea that they're going to have a lot of time. And even if you're fortunate and you have a ton of student loans, as soon as you're done with school, the family expectation is that you're going to go off and go right into the workforce. So I think it's a real challenge for the average Americans to do that. And we have a horrendous habit, I think, culturally. If we're not good at something, we don't care about it. I mean, I see this a lot, say, historically in soccer. You'll listen to a lot of Americans and they'll say soccer's dumb. But I wonder if soccer's really dumb or boring or whatever they may call it, or if is it because we're just not as good as the rest of the world at it. And I'm concerned that we may have the same thing going on in video games, although we do tend to rock the world when it comes to console gaming, like Halo 3. I think it's an interesting challenge.
Gaming overall is ingrained a little bit more into certain cultures elsewhere in the world, such as take a look at the Koreans. Over there, a guy and a girl could go out on a date and just go to a LAN center, and that would be considered, a normal thing. Over here in America, that's kind of frowned upon for the most part. That might have an impact on it too. Gaming is a little bit more socially acceptable over there. Hopefully that'll change in the future over here on our side of the world. We can only keep our fingers crossed.
Let's move on to the other games that were announced in the World Cyber Games. We have Trackmania, which is a PC title. It's a racing game. Again, another title that I think the United States is not good news for. No player made it into the bracket play. This was dominated by the Scandinavians. The gold medal and the silver medal went to 2 Swedish players, and the third went to a Norwegian player. So again, we're not going to see America do much in the first 3 titles that are announced for the World Cyber Games, unless there's a really big surprise. Next on our list of games is Counter-Strike 1.6. This is some place where at least I know that we can be competitive compared to some of the other titles on there. But obviously this is also a place where I think we're seeing, and this is just my opinion, a real movement in Eastern Europe. I mean, last year it was the Polish team again, who I think they've since changed their name, but they upset Fnatic. Fnatic's the UK organization, but Swedish team. And then, you fast forward to this year, ESL, it's won by a Ukrainian team. You start to have to ask the question, is Eastern Europe, is that the place for the top Counter-Strike players? And I think the answer is pointing out to yes. Bandit, what do you think?
Well, I definitely agree with you. And the other thing would be, too, is you just never know nowadays with all these teams over there, who's going to come out on top. I mean, we saw upsets. We also, you see like teams that we've never, you've heard of them, but coming pretty much out of the woodwork, and they're doing well. I think a lot of these high-profile teams better watch their back and probably maybe, I don't know, practice a little more, because all these teams are doing really well, and they're coming up, and they're going to probably beat them.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that there's a lot of expectation on the American parts that we might do well, but you look at Team EG, who many believe is, represents the best in American Counter-Strike. To be honest, they didn't impress me at the Intel Extreme Masters, and on top of that, if you look at the World Cyber Games last year, they got knocked, out the first round. They made top 16. That's it. They were ousted 2-1. So, I mean, in this case right here, again, this is where I think we have a lot of hope to do well, but I'm just not certain that we can put together that top roster to actually compete. I'm optimistic that something could change, and I know that EG definitely has the ability to put together a good team, but at the end of the day, I think, again, the Europeans are proving to be the best Counter-Strike players. Next title released on the PC is Karam 3D, and for those that don't know, it's a small game, but I guess it has a devoted following. And in this case here, again, not good news for America. I think we did slip in a 4th place, but there were only 4 players to come out of the group, and I know a South Korean took gold, a Brazilian took silver, and a German took bronze, and then I think Indigo Ferret's the American player who came in 4th. So again, we're in one of those situations where it's a small title. Maybe somebody can slip in, but I think, again, trying to beat the South Korean or the Brazilian is going to be tough, because both of them, I think, Jintek from Brazil and Mark Jacobs from South Korea, both are just really, really proficient at this title. So next, this brings us to the last PC game, which is actually a promotional title this year called Lost Saga, which is a fighting game. And I know Doomhammer's been playing it, and I think some of our community members have. What about you, Jason? Have you got a chance to look at the title at all?
I just downloaded it. After this episode, I'm actually going to go try it out. It looks really fun, and I think that this could be a really neat title for WCG this year. The visual style of it kind of reminds me of a Gunbound kind of theme. I would love to see some members from VVV form a couple of teams and try out for this game. Everyone can download the game and play it for free. If they don't like it, no harm done. They can just delete it. But who knows? We might end up seeing some really good competition, and I think the gate's wide open. I don't know that there's any favorite anywhere in the world for this one. It should be a good title. I think it's a good choice.
Yeah, I think it's a good choice, too. I went on their forums. They have a lot of guilds, which are basically groups of fighters for this open battlefield. But the game itself is 3v3, at least for the World Cyber Games. It's kind of a action fighting game, but it's also got guns in it. So, I don't know. I highly recommend, if anybody out there hasn't tried Lost Saga, it's free to download. You play it through your browser. It's not really that complicated. There's some really interesting maps. The environment's really interesting. From what I've seen watching Doomhammer play, and I know Fear has played this too, so if anybody wants to ask about the game, VV Fear or VV Doomhammer, I know, have first-hand experience with the title. All right, that moves us next to areas where I think we can do a lot better, which is on the console side on the Xbox 360. And we'll open with Guitar Hero 5, although last year that was won by a Brazilian, definitely, and Americans took 2nd and 3rd.
Guitar Hero, in my opinion, is probably the United States' best chance at winning a gold. The past couple years, we've had really good shots. When Guitar Hero 3 was the title 2 years ago, Yukog Monkey from the UK ended up winning, and he actually knocked out the American player Whitwix, who ended up finishing in 4th that year. Last year, we did a little bit better. Chao Menudo, the Brazilian player, came out of nowhere and demolished the competition, but we ended up having Paradigm Shift and VVV Smokey Prog finish in the 2nd and 3rd spot, taking home 2 medals for America. Overall, I'm not surprised to see Guitar Hero 5 as the title that WCG chose for the rhythm gaming genre. It just has such a far reach. There's so many people across the world that already have the game, that are attached to their plastic guitars, so to say, and I think that this should be a really competitive title this year. The songs that are in Guitar Hero 5, I don't think are as challenging as the ones that were in World Tour, so I think that the competition's really wide open, and it's just going to be not necessarily about who the best player is, but who can stay the most consistent throughout the tournament. So I'm really looking forward to see what happens, but I definitely think that this is the United States' best opportunity to take home the gold.
I definitely think it's going to be a great title. I enjoyed watching it last year in the WCG Nationals. I mean, it's going to be awesome to watch again. I mean, you could really see the players really wanting to strive to be the best, but also, I mean, you can see that they're all like close knit and like, yeah, they're all like friendly with each other, and they just love to compete against each other as well, and just prove that they're better on that day and on occasion.
Perilous brings up an interesting point, which is that the rhythm gaming community really does have they have a great sense of camaraderie, and there's really good sportsmanship among them, which makes Guitar Hero such a great competitive title. No matter what happened in each of the matches last year, after each match the competitors would shake hands, sometimes even hug each other, just congratulating each other on a great match. That's something you don't normally see in other titles, and it makes me very proud to have been a part of that tournament last year. It's just great to see that competitive nature melded with good sportsmanship.
Which brings us to the next game, which is Tekken 6, which creates an interesting scenario because Tekken 6 for WCG is going to be on the Xbox 360, and clearly Tekken 6 for Major League Gaming is going to be on the PlayStation 3. I expect to see an overlap of top players there. I think it'll be interesting to see what kind of upsets happen, because by the time the qualifiers happen, we'll already have some idea who the top Tekken 6 players are at LAN from Major League Gaming. Will the transition from PlayStation 3 to Xbox 360 really be much difference for these players? I think that'll be very interesting to see.
I'm very shocked to see this title on 360, whereas MLG is doing it on PS3. It seems to me like there's a chance that some players might get excluded because they don't have access to one system or the other, such as imagine, an MLG player plays only on PS3. Since the qualifiers are going to be done on Xbox Live, there's a chance they might not even be able to qualify. It's going to leave the door wide open for a couple of major upsets, in my opinion.
All right, let's go on to the next title. The last one on the 360 announced is Forza Motorsport 3. I think this is probably another title where we can do well, but I know the Europeans have great racers as well. Never has the WCG had a Forza title. I'm unaware of Forza really having a LAN presence anywhere in North America, so this will be interesting. I think it's a good choice. Racing's a pretty universal genre of game, so I think it's probably been a good choice. Plus, the game's beautiful. I think Forza Motorsport is a really gorgeous game to watch being played. With all these transitions going on, with a lot of titles changing and new titles showing up, a lot of players, I think, have a tough time with change. They get very comfortable in a title. They make the assumption it's going to be around forever. And the question that we have is, are players comfortable changing titles? And, is it ever too late to game? Not to pick on you, Bandit, but you are 24, so you're definitely not 18 anymore, so to speak. Give us a brief background about when you started playing Source and what over the years have you noticed about your playing? What's changed?
Actually, I think I'm a really good example. I started gaming when I was around 17, 18, so I consider that personally to be a little bit on the older side to start gaming. I kind of grew up in a dairy farm, so I really didn't have access to computers or gaming consoles when I was growing up, so kind of got left out there, but definitely all the more fun now. But, playing from, around 17, 18 till now, well, first, I've gotten better at Counter-Strike. I guess that's obvious. But the second thing is just overall playing with people, learning different styles of play. Teamwork is a huge, huge thing. And I think probably in the last year or two has probably been, the most learning experience in that area. Just being more mature and even learning from some of the younger players, because some of the younger players have been playing longer than I have, and you can definitely learn from everybody.
I think it's more or less how mature somebody gets, but yeah, age always has something to do with your maturity. Also, I think if you're too young to become a pro gamer, I think that's something that people don't really think about for their children. And a perfect example is, like Poison and stuff. Like, he missed a lot of his childhood because he was just always indoors playing a video game and stuff like that. I think he could have waited until he was a little bit older. But I honestly don't think there's a age limit per se to stop gaming. And people always tell us, like, hey, you're 32 years old and you're still playing World of Warcraft. Like, yeah, it makes them happy. And if they're good at it, why not? It's not taking up their life. It's not consuming them. Then go ahead, go for it. But I think there's just a bunch of limitations that people don't really realize on a day-to-day basis what goes on with pro gaming and the lifestyle of it.
It just doesn't ever hurt to start competing at a game. Even if you think you're like 2 years behind all the other players, There's always new tools, new tips, new strategies to come up with in different games. There's new views that maybe these gamers before haven't looked at. You can start another way or style of playing a certain game. You just got to, use your brain and use your maturity to look at it if you're an older gamer.
It's never too late to begin competing, no matter what your age. It's never too early to begin competing either. I don't think that age should matter whatsoever when it comes to the landscape of competitive gaming. It's but a number. There are so many things you can learn from the competitive gaming scene. No matter what age you are, it teaches wonderful things. Teamwork, being able to hold your nerves together, dexterity. I just think that there's a lot of positives to be gained from getting out into the competitive world, getting into tournaments, learning about teamwork, focusing on the task at hand. It's just something that can be a positive experience for anybody, in my opinion.
Well, I'm going to have to disagree there. I think at too early of an age, you're going to have children who get burnt out on their games and stuff like that. And also, it's not like a little kid is going to go try out for the Major League Baseball League, But in gaming, you kind of have to be a little smarter, and I don't see a 7-year-old being as smart as, let's say, one of the top 18-year-olds playing Halo 3 or Gears of War or Counter-Strike, et cetera, et cetera. But they're also missing a parts of their childhood because they're just sitting here playing video games constantly and then traveling to tournaments and, meeting all these people. But at the same time, not one younger player has done fairly decent. Like, you have Gringo Jr. in the Gears of War division. He has pretty much gone nowhere in the past couple of years of his, quote, gaming career. And then you had Poison, who has had some issues. He's had some ups and downs. But in the end, where has it gotten him, and does he still compete? I don't think they have the mentality. They don't have the temper. They can't control it. That's for sure. I've seen them wig out. And I just don't think this is not their area yet. I think they can start a little later when they've matured and they've gone out of the stereotypical Xbox Live or, online child, because they do, have horrible attitudes. I just want to say that, though.
It's interesting. I mean, we've said a couple things here at the end. We've sort of said that in some ways there is a too young, obviously. Bandit saying, I feel like a late starter, but I definitely don't feel pursuing gaming has in any way been a waste of my time. I've grown. I've gotten to be a better Counter-Strike player. The one thing that really came to my mind, too, was, in reading Hydra Mist, which is a blog from Hydra, one of Team Dignitas's players, I think he said something really, really profound in his blog, and I really mean that. He sort of said that after everything was said and done, after they had, sort of come into second, that, even though, as I had said earlier, the Rogue Mage Priest, the RMP really seems to be the way to go, you have this moment where we know so much about the game, but at the same time so little. And I think a lot of players assume if they're 2 years behind, they can't learn anything. And I think that's absolutely not true. So if anybody out there is wondering, should I start a new game? Should I pick up a new title? Absolutely you should. That's the bottom line. Regardless of which age you are, if you want to game competitively, pick up the title. There's still things to be learned. It's not over, right? There's always refinements. There's always ways to create strategies and tactics that will surprise people.
To add to that, Jerry, I wanted to say too is I think you have a better advantage if you're someone that doesn't have the experience, and say someone that does have the experience and you can talk to them and they're willing to help you. You can basically cut off a lot of time on getting better at a game and learning, the work ends and arounds on how to do certain things. Of course, in a lot of games you do need to have the experience because that's what it comes with playing more. You need the experience to get where you need to be. But just knowing someone and they can help you, you can skip a lot of steps and get where you want to be quicker.
You're absolutely right. I mean, just look at any major sport and how it's evolved over the years. It's not played the same way. And so it will be in many of the esports titles. And for players who, are asking, what should I play? Sample around. What Bandit just said is true. If you can partner with a player who knows what they're doing, it's really good for both sides. And to all of you out there who are really good at a game, don't miss out on the opportunity of mentoring somebody. The best thing about mentoring someone is they can ask questions or bring a perspective that you haven't considered. Often in business and education, especially at the PhD level where a professor has a ton of graduate students he's teaching, people come in with all of this fresh perspective. So you may know everything about the way the game is played now, But if you want to stay on top, you have to evolve your gameplay. And mentoring someone is a way to get a fresh set of eyes and something that student says to you can change the way you think about a game, develop a new tactic or a new strategy. And I think that's an excellent way to stay on top of a game. So it's not just good for the person who's trying to catch up. It's really an excellent opportunity for the top player to stay on top of their game by listening to a student who may have a different perspective or bring an outside view on how the game is played.
One thing that I think that hasn't been touched on at all in regards to age, if you are a little bit younger, perhaps you can also have a little bit of a mental advantage because other players may think, oh, he's too young to know the same things that I know in my experience. I know for a fact, like from what I saw last year at the WCG Nationals, that there were a couple of younger players in different titles. I'll use my own experiences in Guitar Hero as an example. There was a younger player by the name of Asai28. He ended up being my opponent at one time. Not saying that I underestimated him, don't get me wrong at all. But a couple of people who didn't know who he was at first kind of were like, oh, well, he's going to be a pushover. He actually ended up being the person who officially eliminated me from the tournament, and it was the closest match in WCG tournament history. I ended up losing that song, the song in question, by 8 points, which is a 25th of a note. At the end of the day, I don't know, perhaps you can use your young age to an advantage as well.
Well, that goes with the same thing as females can use our stereotype to our advantage, because everyone just kind of overlooks us and goes, oh, it's just a girl. What does she know about video games? Da-da-da-da-da. And then the next second, I'm handling their asses and their jaws are on the floor and then I get proposed to. I'm just saying that everyone can use their stereotypes, but I just don't think children at a quite young age, like 7, 8, 9, or 10, should be wasting their time on a competitive video game title. And they should be out in the world discovering how to catch a ball, or something like that, and they should wait until they're like 15 to where they've mentally matured, because I've yet to see a 7-year-old mature enough. So I just don't think they can actually mentally handle it, nor are they supposed to be there. Most of these games are rated M for mature. It's not right to have them seeing these things, so it's kind of odd to me.
We'd like to thank TGG for helping us to put on the show, as always. Mainly Crash, because he does the editing. Love you. Thanks to VVV sponsors, such as SteelSeries, Control Freak, Custom Ink, and Music Skins, our new sponsor. And always, we'd love to thank the VVV community for listening, marketing, and helping us, love what we do here at the podcast, or the Loser Bracket, I should say. Be sure to stop by over at the Gamers Garage, where you can find out all the ways to follow us, such as Facebook, MySpace, and Twitter. You can also leave feedback by calling our voicemail at 206-350-7352 or via email at mailbag@thegamersgarage.com. As always, we'd like to thank you for listening and have a great week.
Bye, guys.
Hey everybody, I'm Jordan Doomhammer Khan. I'm the Vice President of Operations for VCV Gaming. I stepped in to talk briefly about Lost Saga since it's the promotional game that WCG has put on the list this year. I've only played the game briefly, but it does have quite a bit of potential in terms of competition. The gameplay starts out simple. It's one of those games that's easy to pick up, but it seems like it's very difficult to master. There's many different classes to play, which you earn as you level up by playing the game. I only saw most of the lower level stuff, but 1 or 2 times I saw high level characters that seem to have a lot of abilities, not just in terms of direct damage, but in terms of interdiction and freeze and stun locking the enemy. So it seems like it has a lot of good team play potential. There are a couple of different variations on the game styles, whether that's King of the Hill, Team Deathmatch Elimination, Free-for-all, all kinds of things. So it seems like WCG has made a pretty good choice in terms of this fighting game, this new title for their upcoming season. I encourage everyone to take a look at it. It's free to download and free to play. The link is available in the VVV forums. Just go to the Lost Saga section of the forums, and it has all the information on how to get the title and start learning how to play. Getting ready for the WCG.
Normally I wasn't going to give a rant because I'm not feeling well, but as soon as I sat down and I started doing the podcast, I got a little burst of energy because all the things that really torque me started coming back into my mind. And since I'm here and I have your attention, I want to talk to you about something. It's about whining. I get a lot of aims every day from people who seem to have the attitude that they deserve something. Oh, I put in a lot of hard work to get where I did. Look at me now. Oh, I've put in a hard work. Look at this. Oh, we just won a tournament. I have said this to you before. Winning is not enough. If you can listen closely to tonight's podcast, you would have realized that we said most titles that'll be at the World Cyber Games, we're not good at. You want to know why we're not good at it? Because a lot of players don't have an interest or they're not willing to put in the hard work. But guess what? When there's change, there's opportunity. So don't aim me with your Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 GB team record and it's 4-0. Nobody cares. Pick up one of these titles. Get involved in Tekken 6. Play Forza. Pick up Lost Saga. These are opportunities to win real money and also give back. And what I mean by giving back is you're listening to this podcast. You have the ability to not be the kind of professional player who says, Lord Jareth, if you're only going to give us $1,200, we can't play for you. We need a minimum of $3,000, and if we can't get that, well, it's just not worth it to us. Well, as I always say, all right, tough guy, you showed me. Well, don't be one of those people. What you need to do is you need to take a big step back, be humble, and take a chance. Look, if you're going to sit around and play a game, you might as well go for the gold. It's good to set goals, and it's good to be the person in the arena taking the time and the effort to play and attempt to be the best. And like I said, Trackmania, Lost Saga, there are a ton of games that no American has really shined thus far. So do yourself a favor, okay? These are opportunities. Instead of sitting on aiming me, thinking I care about your Modern Warfare 2 doubles team or that I wonder if Gears of War 1 team should, nobody cares. Show me the money. Do yourself a favor. Show yourself the money. And if you're not going to compete, have fun. Do not forget that this is not about, oh, I'm going to lie to myself and tell myself I'm going to be the next Halo Pro. Don't do that to yourself. If you're going to try to be a Halo Pro, try to be a Halo Pro. But don't do anything halfway. And if you're going to game for fun, relax, have fun. Be thankful that you're in VV Gaming where you have this great community to have fun with. But do not send me a message whining, crying, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Oh, do you think I should play this? Do you think I should play that? I think you should make a decision and you should go for it. All right? There are a lot of good titles out there on the circuit. There are plenty of talented people who can help you grow. And if not, you want to know what title I want you to play? If you come to me and ask me, Lord Jareth, what should I play? I'm going to first tell you, look at the MLG titles, look at the World Cyber Game titles. And if none of that interests you, then play Battlefield Bad Company 2. Because it's better than Modern Warfare 2 from the standpoint of being a campaign and also from the multiplayer. That's all I got tonight because I'm sick. For most of you, put the Doritos down, put the Dr. Pepper down, put the Hot Pockets down, get your fat ass off the couch, get out, do some friggin' exercise, and don't be crying there all nervous because you don't have a game. Hit the friggin' gym. And don't send me no friggin' shirt requests for 4 extra large. We don't carry it. If you need a 4 extra large shirt, go to friggin' Mob or Pure Talent Gaming. They got a ton of those fat boys on the couch who either drinking Mob 180 energy drinks or they're sitting and fucking on their fat ass on a site waiting for somebody to come and visit them. Do not contact me. Have a good one, everybody.
That's all I have to say about that.